Today I want to talk about the topic of luxury fashion houses launching new beauty lines, both makeup and fragrance. Tell me we've not seen a lot of these lately, most notably the launch and rise of Prada Beauty. We've also heard that they're expanding that to Miu Miu Beauty, not to mention the new Celine Beauty that's coming out, not to mention Dolce Gabbana Beauty, Paco Rabanne Beauty, and the expansion of both Hermes and Valentino beauty lines. Are these cash grabs, is my question to you, or are they a welcomed and refreshing update to an industry that for decades has been dominated by more heritage lines like Chanel and Dior? So I thought we would talk about it today as I do a full face of makeup with products from all of these brands. I have Dolce Gabbana Beauty, Hermes Beauty, Prada Beauty, Valentino, and a little bit of Dior sprinkled in there as well. And if you are new here, hi, welcome. My name is Sophia, and my channel is all about luxury, especially luxury beauty. Not only do I do a lot of new makeup reviews, but we also talk about the industry side of things on this channel. How are these brands doing? Why are they making these decisions? Why are these products on our shelves? So if you want to hang out with me today and talk about the business side of things, then keep watching. I'm going to start off this look by prepping my skin with the Dior Glow Star filter, and then for my lips, I have the new Dolce & Gabbana Mint Lip Oil that I recently reviewed here on my channel. I will link all the products that I use on my face in the description box down below. I'm not going to talk as much about the products in this video, but you can find the links in the description box. So if you are subscribed to my channel, then you will know I do a regular series called What is New in Luxury Beauty, and we talk about all the new products that are coming out in the world of luxury beauty, and in addition, we talk about just kind of like relevant industry news. And I kind of went down this rabbit hole of luxury fashion houses coming out with new beauty brands when we talked about Miu Miu coming out with a luxury beauty brand. I think it's going to be launching at some point this year, maybe early next year. And if you guys don't know, Miu Miu is the sister brand to Prada, and Prada recently launched Prada Beauty last year. It seems like it's been very, very successful. A lot of you guys know I absolutely love Prada Beauty. In fact, we're going to go in with some of the products in this look that I'm creating today. And I'll link that episode down below in case you want to hear a little bit more about Miu Miu Beauty and my thoughts on that. But long story short, guys, I went down this huge rabbit hole of kind of trying to figure out what else is going to be launching. Why are these brands launching beauty brands now? What is the strategy behind that? And also, what does this mean for other brands that are more long-standing, like Chanel, like Dior, maybe YSL Beauty? A lot of these companies have had their beauty arms for a much longer time. What does that mean for these products? Are we going to stop buying more of these? So I thought we would talk about that today. And I thought it would only be natural to start off this discussion where we first see brands entering the beauty space, and that is fragrance. Business of Fashion reports that we are going to be seeing a Bottega Veneta fragrance by the end of this year. We're going to be seeing the first in-house fragrances produced by Balenciaga, and we are also going to be seeing Alexander McQueen fragrances by the end of this year. I believe all of these brands are owned by Kering, which is the brand that owns Gucci, or the conglomerate that owns Gucci. They are very much doubling down on fragrance and beauty after the seems like a pretty successful launch of Gucci Beauty. And fragrance really is that first category where we see brands entering the beauty space. It's not necessarily the easiest category to go into. It's definitely highly saturated, but it is a very, very high performing category. In fact, there are a lot of fashion brands that are even kept alive by just the sales of their fragrance. If you have one really good best-selling fragrance, that can carry your entire brand. I'm going in right now with the Prada Reveal Foundation. I will link my shade down below. We were actually talking about this in another one of my videos, that LVMH, which is the company that owns Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, and a bunch of other luxury brands, they did see a slight decline in their company overall, in their luxury sales in 2023. However, their beauty category, which does include Sephora, saw a record year with a 25% increase, and then they saw an additional 11% increase in Q1 of this year. So it is just only getting better. And in that video, which I'll link down below, we mostly talked about Sephora and how that was a big part of that growth, but also cited were the sales of their big cash cow fragrances like Dior Sauvage, like Miss Dior. I want to say that Dior Sauvage is the best-selling men's fragrance in the world. Don't quote me on that. If not, it is definitely up there. So a lot of these very core products, specifically fragrances, very much can contribute to the growth of a brand, or at least the stabilization of a brand, even when maybe other categories are not performing so well. I'm just going in right now with what is left of my Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Concealer. And actually, Charlotte Tilbury is owned by another company that we recently talked about on this channel, which is Puig. They are a large beauty conglomerate. They are out of Spain, I believe, and they are doing very well. They actually are filing for IPO. They have built their entire, well, not their entire, but they have built a big part of their brand portfolio off of licensing fragrances from some of these big beauty brands. And some of these brands, like, no offense, but like, I don't really think about them all that much. I don't really think about Jean-Paul Gaultier. Maybe that's just me. Comment down below. Paco Rabanne is another one. I know that they've become a little bit more hot within the past year. They kind of did like a whole rebranding of Paco Rabanne, and they also came out with Beauty. But until recently, I feel like Paco Rabanne has been a very sleepy brand, but their fragrances are incredibly popular. In fact, last year, Paco Rabanne became the first Puig portfolio brand to hit $1 billion in net revenue. Comment down below if you have tried any of the Paco Rabanne fragrances. I know I've like seen them at department stores, but I've never smelled them. And I don't know. I think that that's really interesting when you have a fashion brand that maybe isn't super hot in terms of bags or clothes or shoes or accessories, but their fragrances are really what is kind of keeping the brand name alive. So anyway, my point here is, friends, is that these luxury brands, as they are experiencing a decrease in demand in their fashion, their accessories, any other categories that maybe were once performing a little bit better, they're often able to make up for it or sometimes keep their brand alive by capitalizing off of fragrances and investing in the beauty categories. It's working out really well for some brands, and other brands are now taking notice. And so the question is, why are a lot of these luxury brands experiencing a decrease in sales, or at least a revenue softness in these other categories like ready to wear, like bags, like shoes? And the answer is, we've talked about this on my channel before, it's the economy. The economy is not as good as it used to be. There's been so much inflation. And in addition to just the cost of living, groceries, clothes, literally everything going up, the prices of these luxury items have also gone up astronomically. We always hear about Chanel, like every quarter, multiple times a year, they have price increases. But it's not just Chanel, okay? It's literally every single brand have done price increases. I remember I bought the Gucci Soho Disco bag years ago, like in my 20s. I was probably like 24, 25 when I purchased that bag. It cost $900, which is expensive, okay? That's expensive for a handbag, but you used to be able to find a nice luxury handbag like the Gucci Soho Disco for under $1,000, and you just can't find that anymore. In fact, they revamped that bag just slightly. I wouldn't say they improved it. They did a couple of design tweaks, and they have it for sale now again in the reissued version for almost $1,800. So the price of that bag within the past, I don't know when I got it, okay, the past 8 years or so has literally doubled. And that's just priced out a lot of aspirational customers. And when I say aspirational, I don't mean for that to be a negative thing. That's most people, right? Most of us don't just walk into Chanel and buy a $10,000 bag. If we are luxury lovers like myself, we aspire to own a Hermes Birkin. We aspire to own a Chanel Classic Flap. Some of us are aspiring to own just a little, small leather good or something like that. And maybe that's something that we would have treated ourselves to once a year. But now with the cost of living gone up and the prices gone up on these luxury goods, a lot of people are just nah, never mind. I'm done. I'm priced out. I can't even think of shopping here anymore. If you ask me, these astronomical price increases, while I'm sure a lot of it does have to do with maybe the cost of labor and materials, I also think that they're just an indication that a lot of these luxury brands are choosing to focus on the top 5% of their customers that generate 80% of their revenue. These are elite customers. These are people that can go to Chanel every single weekend and buy a bag if they want. They are not paying attention to the price increases. It is nothing that affects them. It is a drop in the bucket for them. They can go shop at Chanel like it's Target or Kohl's. These people are not paying attention to these little price increases. And so little by little, the prices go up, but the brands are still somewhat able to maintain a lot of their revenue because that group of customers doesn't really seem to be affected all that much. Luxury is luxury to them, and they're really just trying to maintain their loyalty at that point. And don't get me wrong, friends, I'm not trying to say that this concept is like a wildly new strategy. It's not. I know that makeup and fragrance have always, at least compared to the other categories from these luxury brands, been marketed to more of a mainstream audience. It is not new. In fact, I'm sure most of us who are watching this video can think of a product that maybe they had in high school or something like that, and that was your first introduction into luxury, maybe your first introduction to that brand. For me, it was Chanel Chance, Burberry Brit perfume. I think at one point I had J'adore by Dior, and I had definitely just one Chanel lip gloss, and I coveted those things. Comment down below and let me know, what fragrance did you wear maybe like in high school or when you were younger, if you wore fragrance at all. Combined with all of, the Victoria's Secret body splashes and that kind of stuff, did you have like a luxury perfume or something that you coveted? It's not a new concept at all. But what I am trying to say is that given the astronomical price increases, I do feel like these categories are more strategic than ever. The brands are noticing and they're saying, okay, like we don't really have as much for this customer. We don't have any fragrances or we don't have any makeup. Let's maybe think about launching a makeup line. What are things that we can do to kind of cater to this audience a little bit more, or maybe even cater to like a younger audience? They do technically have money to spend. Apparently they do, because all of these brands are marketing to teenagers these days. But I guess that's what they did for me when I was buying my Chanel lip gloss, at least in some regard. And I feel like now it is more strategic than ever. And that's why we are seeing a lot of these makeup collections launching in the recent years. Right now, I'm just going into the Dolce & Gabbana bronzer in the lightest shade. By the way, I read a lot of comments on these articles, and one of the arguments that I see quite often that I thought was interesting is, given all of the price increases with these luxury brands, will the regular consumer basically start to feel like these brands are so unrelatable, so unattainable, that they're not even going to want to shop the beauty? Like the price differential is so big that they just kind of give up on the brand? I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting argument. Personally, I don't see that happening. I can't agree. I feel like there's always been people that just kind of felt like a Chanel bag was unattainable. They're not even gonna play in that ballpark, but that customer might still really enjoy the elegance of Chanel makeup. They still might feel like a Chanel woman with just a fragrance, with just Chanel No. 5. I mean, it's like one of the most popular fragrances in the world. And personally, as a beauty influencer, I don't really see my subscribers losing interest in brands like Chanel, Tom Ford, and Dior. I know a lot of us, we do complain about some of the quality things going on, some of the colors, the packaging, we complain about those types of things, and I'm definitely in that camp. But overall, I don't really see people losing interest in these brands just because we're seeing price increases on bags. For example, one of the collections that I often think about was the Chanel Codes Couleur, I believe it was called. I want to say that this launched last year, and it wasn't a makeup release. It actually was a release of like little beauty accessories. So there were like little brush pouches that had the Chanel emblem on them. There were little compact mirrors. There were overpriced Chanel nail files. Everything came in an array of cute little colors. You could collect them all, and everything had the Chanel logo on them. And this collection just flew off the shelves. I didn't buy anything, like I totally wasn't interested, but clearly I was in the minority because this collection sold so well. And why is that? Because it's Chanel, because we love Chanel. And I think that that aspirational customer who isn't going to spend $1,000 on like overpriced Chanel flip-flops from the spring collection, they will spend whatever it was for an overpriced Chanel nail file from the Codes Couleur collection. It was fun. You have your little mirror, it says Chanel on it. Maybe you have your little brush pouch and it has the Chanel emblem, and it kind of feels almost like you got a Chanel SLG. I just thought that collection was very, very interesting. I really don't see people not being interested in the brand and those types of cute little accessories just because there's like increases in the prices of the bags. What I do see, however, is that even the beauty is getting so expensive that we're pricing people out. Not that the bags are too expensive and that we can't relate to the makeup anymore, we can't relate to the brand anymore. No, that's what being aspirational is all about. You're kind of aspiring for that luxury feel when you use the makeup. I don't think that's why people are going to be purchasing less Chanel, Tom Ford, and Dior makeup. I think it's because the prices have been going up and the quality has been going down. I mean, we've all seen it, okay? The Dior palettes used to be $60, then it was $62, now it is $65, okay? And they reformulated everything to be talc free, and it's not as good as it used to be, okay? We're seeing this over and over. We're seeing a lot of the same repetitive shades and just kind of an overall reduction in the quality of the packaging, the quality of the products, and the prices just keep going up. That's why I think a lot of people are going to stop buying it, not because the prices on the bags and everything have been going up. I think at the end of the day, beauty is always going to be that category for more of like the mainstream and aspirational customer. It's interesting, but also a little bit sad that these categories that were once seen as fairly accessible by this customer base are year after year just feeling a little bit more out of reach. In fact, going back to what I was saying about catering to the top 5% of customers, we're seeing brands do this in the beauty category as well. Do you guys remember the $500 Dior lipsticks that were launched last year? Apparently those were wildly successful. I didn't buy a $500 lipstick, but somebody was. They were not within my price range of a lipstick, but they were for somebody, and they almost treated those lipsticks kind of similarly to some of their like harder to obtain, more exclusive fashion items. Like they only had a certain amount that were produced. They were supposed to be highly covetable. They treated them like a true luxury item that maybe they would have in other categories, those types of things. And scarcity and rarity, you know, those are components of luxury. That is almost what makes people want things even more. We've all experienced that. If something sells out really fast, or we know it's going to sell out really fast, it kind of makes us want it even more. However, as an optimist, I do like to think that with all this, it does present a unique opportunity for some of these new market entrants, these new brands that are coming out with makeup collections. Maybe we will get better products, better quality formulations, better packaging for the price that they are offering. They do need to entice us somehow, and they do need to provide the value. I mean, a perfect example are these new Dolce & Gabbana powder products, like the bronzer that I just used. The formula is amazing. The packaging, way better than anything that I have from Chanel, Dior, or Tom Ford. It's weighty, it's beautiful. I'm very impressed, so I am optimistic, friends. I'm just going in right now with the Valentino blush in the shade Poudre. So what else are brands doing to maximize their revenue in the beauty space? One of the biggest trends we are also seeing is that a lot of these brands are suddenly not licensing out their beauty products. They are actually taking all of their product development and all of the marketing, etc., in-house. Going back to Prada Beauty, for example, they actually don't produce any of those products in-house. Everything is licensed out to L'Oreal, and for them it's been extremely successful. So it's not a bad thing to license out your makeup. That actually was the standard. That has kind of been the norm up until recently. But a lot of brands are thinking, maybe I'll take this in-house, kind of cut out the middleman, increase our profits, and also importantly, kind of like take a little bit more control over the product development and also the branding of the products, because there is a unique opportunity there to sort of tie in what is going on like maybe the fashion side of things or even the fragrance side of things and connect that to the makeup collection. So this has also been a trend that we are seeing. And word on the street is that Gucci Beauty is actually looking to go in-house maybe later this year or early next year. Currently, they are licensed out to Coty. Coty is the big beauty conglomerate that owns like CoverGirl and a bunch of other brands. Word on the street is that Kering, which owns Gucci, is not super impressed with the way that it is going. I feel like Gucci Beauty has done pretty well, but I also feel like they've missed a lot of opportunities. Apparently, Kering is not impressed with the amount of releases that they had in the past year, and I would have to agree. Comment down below and let me know what you think. Gucci Beauty definitely has some really good core products. I mean, the bronzer, the blushes, those are some of my favorite in my collection. But when I think about things that they've launched in the past year that are like, wow, so good and spectacular, I can't really think of anything. I really just think of a bunch of products that I kind of skipped that I didn't think were worth the money. So they're looking to potentially take Gucci Beauty in-house, which I think could probably be a good move based off what I just said. And hopefully they'll be able to take a little bit more control over the brand, the releases, and maybe connect it a little bit more also with the new creative director that recently started at the company. In fact, one of the brands that has done this recently is Dolce & Gabbana Beauty. They used to be licensed out to Shiseido. Remember they came out with like those powders a couple years ago? They had their niche following, but they never really blew up. They never really went anywhere. Basically, Dolce & Gabbana, they did not renew the contract in 2021. They took the whole thing in-house so that they can unify the fashion, the fragrance, and the makeup all all under one brand, and they just relaunched the whole line at the beginning of this year. That is why we are seeing so many Dolce & Gabbana Beauty launches. I know it kind of seems like it came out of nowhere, but it has been in the making for a couple of years. And in fact, friends, they have reported that they're going to be launching skincare at the beginning of next year. So for some of these brands, the licensing really works, but for others, it ends up being better to just take everything in-house and kind of unify everything under one brand. Personally, I think it was a good move by Dolce & Gabbana because, like I said, I didn't really see those other products really going anywhere. And I actually like all the products, or most of the products that I've tried from this new line. Next up, I'm going into this highlighter from Hermes. This is shade 02 Coral Mojave. So if it's so much more profitable and brands like Dolce & Gabbana can do it relatively successfully, why aren't all of the luxury brands taking their beauty businesses in-house? Well, you can imagine it's very expensive. You need a lot of upfront capital and resources to be able to formulate perfumes and different types of makeup products. It used to be the default that you would just license it out to, L'Oreal or Coty or Estee Lauder or any of these other conglomerates who have the labs, who have the resources, who have the noses to create these perfumes. And then the brands were like, okay, we'll just collect the royalties and be on our way. And that's just that part of our business. But like I was saying, it's becoming such a bigger part of these brands' strategies to reach that type of consumer that they're starting to think through, maybe we should be taking this in-house. Not to mention, another aspect of it is that the design process, the distribution, the supply chain, the release cadence, and to some extent, the customer between beauty products and fashion products, not usually the same, okay? We usually don't go on the same seasonal cycle. We expect a lot more releases. The process for designing these two products are not the same. And so you can't really expect those that work at a luxury brand that have more of an experience in like fashion design. You can't expect them to design also beauty products. And so usually these brands, they're seeking out these beauty conglomerates that just have a much better understanding of how to develop these things and also how to market them to customers. For my eye look today, I'm just going into this little Hermes palette. This one is 02 Ombres Vegetales. It's the one with like the little pops of green and the shimmering champagne. And speaking of Hermes Beauty, by the way, which is one of the in-house brands, they are reaping the benefits. They are killing it. I was reading that in 2023, Hermes Beauty brought in $528 million in sales. That was up 12% from the previous year. Their beauty brand is doing incredibly well, and they aren't releasing like tons of new products every single month, but they are putting out existing products in new seasonal shades, trying to attract, people who like the Hermes brand. Not everybody can afford or even be offered a Birkin, but at least you can kind of get the vibe of Hermes from, for example, their beautiful eyeshadow palettes, which I absolutely love. So when it comes to the in-house thing, there's really no right or wrong answer. Some brands like Prada doing really, really well with the licensing. Other brands like Tom Ford under Estee Lauder, I would argue, not doing so well. Then you have brands like Hermes and hopefully Dolce & Gabbana who will be doing pretty well. Comment down below and let me know, which model do you think is better? What would you like to see from these brands? Do you feel like the in-house model for those brands who have gone that route has reaped better rewards or has produced better products? I wanted to read you guys a quote from one of the articles. I feel like they sum this up pretty well. It says, ultimately, it comes down to the end goal. Does the fashion house want to take a slower approach and spend time building brand equity in beauty and swallowing years of high upfront costs to reap a potentially bigger reward later down the line? Or do they want the immediate, reliable, and shareholder-pleasing uplift of awareness and sales a license can bring? So I feel like the ones that are taking it in-house, they're making a bet, but they're kind of playing the long game. And I kind of respect that. Like, it kind of means that they're here to stay, and hopefully it means that we're going to be getting more thoughtfully designed products, which is always at least welcomed by me. Going back to the original prompt of this video, is it all a cash grab? Comment down below. I would love to know what you think. Personally, when I think of a cash grab, I think of something that maybe maybe wasn't very thoughtfully designed, was maybe produced very quickly, is not super good quality, or also isn't very well integrated into the brand and their currently existing categories. And most importantly, something that really feels like it was created for short-term profit. That is what a cash grab is to me. And I would love to hear your thoughts. If you guys have any good examples, leave me a comment down below. But personally, at least with the brands that I've tried, most of the ones that I've been putting on my face throughout this video, I don't feel like they're cash grabs. For example, this Hermes eyeshadow palette, I think the quality is amazing. Is it overpriced? Yeah, okay, like I'm paying for the brand name. All of this makeup is technically overpriced, but I think that the quality is beautiful. I feel luxurious when I use it. I think the packaging, while it could be maybe a little bit more substantial and weighty, I do think it screams Hermes. I do feel like it was well thought out. And I also really like the colors that they have in this line. I feel like they are true to the Hermes brand. When I take a look at these eyeshadow palettes, I think of like colorful Hermes scarves. And I think the same thing about the lipsticks. They draw upon a lot of the colors from their handbags. To me, that feels very well thought out. I've also been really impressed with Prada Beauty, a brand that is not produced in-house, but I still feel like the design was very thoughtful. They honor a lot of house codes. Even the lipsticks are embossed with kind of like the print of the Prada nylon. I don't know, I just thought there were a lot of really nice, clever design elements in the lipsticks and the eyeshadows, everything from the brand. And I literally have not tried a single product from the brand that I have not enjoyed. Similarly, with Dolce & Gabbana Beauty, they've tied in a lot of their products with their very popular Devotion fragrance. You can kind of tell from the little heart design on this mascara I'm about to apply. So they're sort of tying in those house codes, those brand elements together. And then some of their other products are a little bit more fun, more colorful. They kind of celebrate that like Dolce Vita, slightly party type of vibe that they have in a lot of their advertisements. So they're kind of covering different aspects of the brand that will appeal to different customers. And trust me, I get it. It can get very annoying when it feels like month after month, every single brand is launching a makeup line, a fragrance. It just kind of feels like all these brands are coming for our wallets, and for sure they are, guys, okay? But are they cash grabs? I'm not sure. I personally, as someone who loves makeup and gets excited for new things and actually genuinely likes a lot of these brands. I like Prada, I like Miu Miu, I like Celine and, Paco Rabanne and all that kind of stuff. I like these brands. It makes me excited to see that they're coming out with something new, especially because I'm not going to be shopping from these brands every single week, but at least I can kind of indulge in the beauty products. And I'm getting kind of tired of what I'm seeing being launched by a lot of these more heritage brands like Chanel, like Dior. I mean, how many times have we complained about the quality going down, as I mentioned before? Bring on the competition, okay? I want to see something different. I'm really tired of seeing Tom Ford remarket body heat in a different packaging with like the lamest embossing ever year after year. How many times are you going to do that, Tom Ford? And the prices just keep coming up. I mean, I love this Prada lipstick. I love all the products that I used on my face in this video. And most of these launched in like the past year or so. I feel like it is an exciting time in beauty. I would love to hear what you guys think, but I really am not mad about these brands launching their beauty brands. I don't care if it is all for profit. It's another way to engage me as somebody who loves both luxury, but also beauty. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that consumers are gonna suddenly stop shopping at Chanel and Dior for their makeup. They have their loyal customers, but maybe for those of us who are like a little bit sick of the same thing or want something different or want something that, at least to us, holds a little bit more value for the price, my hope is that these new market entrants will kind of offer something new and perhaps keep brands like Chanel and Dior a little bit more on their toes. Hopefully also they'll bring a little bit more like variety to the luxury aesthetic. Maybe there are customers that weren't really interested in luxury makeup before, but all of a sudden, Prada, which is a little bit more of an edgy brand, is coming out with their own line. Maybe there's, more options for more customers out there. And for that, I remain optimistic. Woo, okay, and this is the final look. I feel like it came out pretty well considering how much talking I had to do in this video. If you enjoyed the discussion, please please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and leave me a comment down below letting me know all of your thoughts on what we discussed today. These big luxury fashion houses and their associated beauty lines. Do you think it's a cash grab? Are there any that you love? Are there any that you've absolutely hated? Let me know down below in the comments section. Subscribe if you haven't already. And with that, friends, I hope that you see some beauty in your day, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.